You guys can cancel this if you want. Not a lot to talk about here. What do we got? Good to see everybody. Day 2 of minicamp. 2 more days here. Big day today.
When you have a guy like Zaven, when you're a defensive coach, I know you're looking for versatile players. When you get a guy like Zaven, I mean, are those guys unique? Can you find guys like that? You just have to be on the lookout for them, or does he bring a skill set that is rare?
He's unique. There's guys that have kind of played how we use them, so I wouldn't say rare, but from the standpoint of his physical skill set, and then how bright he is, how smart he is, the things that we can do with him, we use him kind of as a chess piece, you know what I mean? But, he's played really good ball for us, and I thought he had a really good spring. We got 2 more days here, but he's really made some improvements on his game, what he's doing. And if it makes sense for the defense, for him and for the whole defense, the 10 other guys with him, we're going to deploy him different ways. You know what I mean? So that's an advantage that we have with him being able to mentally, understand schematically what we're doing, and then physically to do it.
Working with a guy like Josh Sweat, who you've had experience with, how does that kind of help you kind of take some extra steps forward when you first get here instead of starting at the baseline with most reads?
Well, he from a standpoint of like what his job description is, that's not going to change much. You know what I mean? So then it's just tweaking his game. We got there's some differences than what we did, with him when I was with him to what we do now. He picked it up quick, and hopefully it's for the betterment of him too. So he's going to be really cool to get going on in camp and games and stuff like that. I know he can impact the game. Which is one of the reasons we signed him, and he's done a great job with, I wouldn't say mentoring, but guys pick his brain, about certain things, and he'll help in that way too, because he's played a lot of ball and he's been successful. So I always say, you want to learn ball, talk to the players, and he's one of those guys that you can talk to, and he gives a different viewpoint than Nick or I or Matt Feeney does. You know what I mean? He's got some viewpoints on things, so he'll help in that way too.
How did day 1 go, Coach?
Good. We had to correct some mistakes, but it was about what I thought. You know what I mean? We got to make some hay today.
What was BJ Jalari doing in his progression?
He's doing well. 1 day at a time, getting better every day. So he's looking forward to getting back on the grass.
What can a guy like that show you when he's not on the grass and at this time of year?
Yeah, he's smart. So I'm not really worried about, him schematically doing the right thing here or that. He's played ball for us. So with him, it'll just be pour into his health bucket and make sure that he feels really good when he's back out there, that he can go, do what he can do. You know what I mean? So, but he's one that's constantly in my ear, getting ready to go. So he's excited.
Kyler talked yesterday about getting out in space and how he actually likes that. Drew had talked about it a couple of weeks ago, schematically getting him out in space, either by scheme or off-schedule plays. Kyler said he enjoys it too because it puts the defense in a bind. How do you feel about him getting out?
It does put the defense in a bind. When you see, I just showed a play in a team meeting, him running around, what it can look like when that happens. But those are some things that we talked about this offseason, some things that we wanted to add here or there, and it looks good right now. But there's no question about it, the pressure that he can put on a defense, late in the down, I would say, because of his skill set. You know what I mean? So he has that, so we're going to, use that when we can.
You also said that you guys need to get better at being off schedule with him. How in practice can you, he said reps will help that, but what specifically in reps can you do to?
Yeah, I'm sure he said in practice it's live for me, like live game reps. You got to put time on task with the people that are out there with you. You know what I mean? But we'll get enough of those, and we can construct certain things for him to make sure that we're coaching the details of what that looks like. Those type of plays too. They're I always say like it's high variance. You can have some high variance in there. So. Yes, we want to use that part of his game. Yes, you see a bunch of explosive plays if you look through the NFL come off schedule or late in the down. So, we got to make some hay there. You know what I mean? But we also got to make sure that we're doing the right things, not putting the ball in harm's way. and being productive when those plays do come up.
Coach, can you go over your vacation plans for us this season?
That was the general manager. Working every day. That's what you got me doing. No vacation plans.
Those off-schedule plays could be tough on offensive line too, not knowing where he's going or what he's doing.
Yeah, but then the flip side of that, Craig, is they can be good for those guys too. You know what I mean? Meaning that sometimes you don't have to block your guy that long because he can in space. They can't get him down. So it's all 11. You know what I mean? And I do think that, to your point, Josh, we got certain things that we set up in practice, but that's, I don't want to say the word organic, but that has to kind of happen naturally. You can't force those things. Hey, I want you to extend more plays. Like, then I'm yelling at them, you're not playing on time. Like, you know what I mean? So it's it has to kind of instinctually, I'll never say I don't love your decision there. I'm not looking at what he's looking at. But he's trained and versed and has the knowledge and the wherewithal, I would say, to his instincts take over and be a football player.
For the other guys, is it more about finding those holes in the defense when he's off schedule and kind of doing that?
Yeah, we kind of have we coach what we kind of want or what we're looking for, but there's some feel to that with all those guys too.
How much more does the continuity help in the off-schedule plays like that with the offense?
I think it does. The more you play ball with, certain guys that you're out there with, I think they have an understanding of each other, and kind of it's hard to put words to it, but you see there's a feel to those guys that starts to get developed. There was a play yesterday I thought we had, like Mike Wilson had really good feel for. Was it coached? Probably not. Hey, he's moving this way. You're covered here. Here's where you can make yourself available, where he can see you, and that you're open enough to where he'll throw it. You know what I mean? And I thought there was a good example yesterday that came up, which was good to see.
With Josh Fryer, I know that he was one of the undrafted guys that you brought in. How valuable was Coach Fry's voice during that process, and what have you seen so far from Josh?
Huge, because I trust the coaches, and he's like, when this guy does he? I always ask the first thing I ask is does he fit here? And it was yes, a resounding yes. He's kind of a multiple position guy. It's been really cool to see when he's gotten here. He's done a good job. He really has. He's smart. He's got really good feet. He's a good athlete. So I'm looking forward to him getting on the grass some more.
You said that at times during this time of the year it could be tough for offensive linemen just because no pads, that physicality. How can an undrafted guy, when you saw the tape from college, but you're trying to see it for yourself here, you talked about not trying to get too ahead of yourself when evaluating, how can he show off in certain ways
mentally he doesn't bust any protections, that's the first thing I'm looking for. He understands where the IDs are going in the run game, things like that, what footwork he needs to take, his technique. How he plays, I look at that too, and he's doing a good job.
Calais and Wall had some good interactions yesterday. How valuable is it to have a big-time veteran like him mentoring a guy like that?
Very valuable. You know what I mean? Like I said, kind of with Sweaty too, like guys that have played a lot of ball at a high level, they have different viewpoints than the coaches, you know what I mean? So, I think Walt, he's done a good job of picking those guys' brain, not just Calais too, but Dalvin too will help. But at the end of the day, we all got to improve as coaches and as players, and we're all helping each other to do that. So it's kind of one of our core concepts, our fabric. Like you got to help each other, care about each other.
Last year, you guys used a lot of three safety looks with Buda, Jalen, and Garrett. How does Rabbit's skill set fit in or complement that group of guys?
Kind of same. He's got the skill set that you can. With him, I say like, can you play in the box and make plays in the run game? Can you tackle? Check. Can you cover people? Check. And then can you play in zones? Whether it be the deep part of the field or underneath coverage. And he can kind of do all those things. The other two, Rabbit's done a really good job. Joey Blunt's done a really good job, and Keaton's done a really good job of that. That room's trending the right direction right now. PT's done a good job with those guys. I like where they're at right now.
What is the next step for him to elevate in year two?
Being consistent, you know what I mean. I'm sure he's had a couple. I am sure he's had a couple mental, you know what I mean. But he fixes mistakes quick, and he's a guy that's why he was able to ascend and play pretty good ball for us last year as a rookie. He doesn't really make the same mistake twice, so he makes a mistake, he corrects it, and doesn't make it again. So that's cool. And I talked about it with him too. Like he wears a lot of hats on game day. Meaning that, last year he was the next safety in, which strong and free safety, in my opinion, they're mirrored, but they are a little bit different. Schematically, what we do with those guys, he can play both. He was the dime. When we go to dime, he comes in and plays. That's a different spot. He's on, special teams. He's playing different spots. He's backing up different spots on special teams. So he wore a lot of hats last year. That can be mentally challenging for some guys, and he handled it really well. And when he goes in the game, he makes plays. So that's good to see. He's ascending.
You're pretty deep at outside linebacker. What's your personal philosophy on having a guy play 3 downs, get into that rhythm, or doing it by committee and having
it depends on the guy a little bit. I think it depends on who else you have, who's up on game day, what packages, who's playing where and what. But I do think that, just my philosophy, like if you look at the long haul, a global view of, yes, obviously we're trying to win every game and you want your best pieces out there, but you do have to be aware of how many snaps they're playing, some of those guys. So that goes into that as well, So I always say, and then you have a plan, and you have plan A, plan B going into the game, and the game might not materialize like that. And then, that's why, like with reps for certain guys, yes, you want your premier guys out there when it's go time, but it doesn't always kick out like that either. You know what I mean? And it's a thing that the coaches have to do a good job of making sure that they're fresh. But when we need to get certain guys out there, that they're out there.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. You guys tell me you can just cancel.